Perfect. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. Feel free to move up if you want. We're very glad that you're here to join us for our panel, and it's a subject that we've talked about for a while now, and it's one that's pretty important, I think, to the music industry as a whole, but also especially to independent artists and just really anybody who wants to do anything around music to further their craft. So, briefly, just want to give you an overview as to why we're doing the panel and what the main focus is today. We're going to do about 40 minutes of actually going through some different questions we've discussed, and then we're going to do about 20 minutes of Q&A. So if any of you have any questions or you think of things throughout the panel, feel free to mention those once we get to that point. This panel grew from a bit of personal experience. I was actually in music for a while, right out of high school with independent record labels and touring with smaller bands and other things like that. Went to college. Now I do financial planning and investment advising. And I just started to see some of the people that I worked with from back in music. There were a lot of skills that I think they had that they could use towards other things. And I started to see people do really amazing things with the skills they had learned in music, and really some people who had made some less good decisions, some worse decisions. And so it was something where I felt like a dialogue would be really useful for a lot of people to just discuss what can you learn from others who have kind of been in the path that a lot of people are at right now. And so that's kind of where the panel came from. And I guess from there I'm just going to go straight into introductions and let everybody just go ahead and introduce themselves. So I'll go ahead and start with Bart Dahl here.
My name's Bart Dahl. I'm artist manager at Red Light Management in Denver, Colorado. Been doing that for artist management for about 10 years, and my background was I was a touring musician on a very small level, but I knew I wasn't meant to be on stage, basically because I was a terrible guitar player. But I had a lot of fun at the shows, and I really respected the promoters and the people who brought us in to do the show. So I found myself talking to those people and ended up with a kind of Rolodex of contacts, and it was just kind of a natural fit for me to go into artist management. I knew a lot of people who were in bands, and I loved the process. I love the majesty of the show, but yeah, my role is much better suited backstage or side stage, not on stage. So yeah, I got into it and got lucky, found a great group of people to work with, and yeah, that's my deal.
Great.
I'm Andrew W.K., and I'm very pleased to be here, and a performer, a musician of some sorts, and a professional partier is really my main activity, and I try to embrace all different opportunities and all different ways to work in this world, and have been very fortunate to have a lot of support since I was 4 years old up until now, and intend to keep on doing it and making the most of it.
My name is Brian Joseph. I'm from Denver, Colorado. Let's see, I started there. My introduction to music was playing. Again, maybe I feel a little bit like Bart in that regard. But I played guitar, played accordion, glockenspiel, a bunch of different instruments, and was actually in a band for about 8 years that played here last night. I got to see them, which is always a really emotional and wonderful experience. But I parted ways with that band a couple of years ago because while playing music, alongside that I was doing the engineering for the band as well. My father, who's here, was kind enough to support me from early on and get me like a 4-track and a couple pieces of gear that were kind of integral to helping me learn things. So yeah, I started recording music awkwardly, and then kept at it forever. Went to college for it, toured with that band a bit, maintained the connection to playing music, because it's, I think, really critical to this discussion about being on as many sides as possible, subjecting yourself to things whether you're good at it or not, which one of which for me is public speaking. So if I'm going on, I apologize. But so anyways, I started working professionally at music venues, doing sound in Denver at the Larimer Lounge and then some other places, and got a gig touring with a band called The Fray out of Denver. They ended up doing really well. I was with them for 6 years, doing monitors, stage managing, teching, all of that jive. And as on the bio, some other bands like Blonde Redhead and Andrew Bird and Sufjan Stevens, and I tour now currently with a band called Bon Iver. And I moved from Denver to Wisconsin a couple of years ago to work on the record, which took us a very long time because we're learning as we go. But it was very well received, and I feel fortunate to have had the couple of records I worked on. People have listened to them and seem to like them a lot, and I get to work with really great people. And I'm happy Josiah asked me to be here today.
Great. Thanks. So I want to thank all of our panelists for being here today. I also want to thank South by Southwest for being so supportive with this idea and helping us bring this ultimate panel to fruition. My name's Josiah, by the way. I don't think I mentioned my name. Sorry. Starting over. So I think one of the main goals I had when it came to finding people to work on this panel was getting a conversation going with people who are in different fields within music, but who all share the common theme that they love music. And we're all very passionate about music. We all have our different histories with it. As you've heard from each one of their backgrounds, I think they all bring a different thing to the table. So hopefully from this discussion today, you'll all find at least something you can relate to with one of them, and something that maybe if not you can relate to, that a friend can relate to, or that you think could help a friend. So having said that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the questions. But once again, thanks for everybody for being here today. So.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. So, first question I wanted to ask, and Bart, I'll start with you on this one. So, the music industry has changed a lot over the past few years. There's been a lot of different things going on as far as how artists get paid, how people within the industry get paid, and how those revenue streams are changing. Mm-hmm. And the question I'd like to start with is, what skills within the industry do you feel like need to be honed either to continue work within the industry in a changing environment, or to use those skills for a career outside of music if one were to do something else at a certain point?
Well, I think there's plenty of things a band at any level does every single day that that if they pay attention to what the process is, what's going on, they can figure out where they're getting paid, why they're getting paid. At the settlement of the show, if once a week every band member just traded off and went into the settlement and figures out why they're getting what they're getting that night. That it's not just a random occurrence. Hopefully their booking agent's done their job, set up the deal, but to know how that process goes, 'cause, maybe someday their band breaks up. Who knows? The next day the singer freaks out and wants to quit, and that's it. But that person wants to stay on the road. Their friend calls them and says, "Hey, I need a tour manager." They can say, "Well, I sat with my tour manager every night my last tour. I know how this goes. I know how to at least get you guys paid and make sure that you're getting what you need." That's just every time any income comes into the band, I think if they're interested, because sometimes artists just aren't. It's just money's not their bag, and that's totally fine. But if that is a concern of yours, you can find out where those revenue streams are coming from, why other people are taking bits from them, whether it's a distributor or a manager or an agent or whatever. Everybody wants to get their piece. So understanding where those people are getting their piece and why they're getting paid can also help you build your team. Figure out if you don't even need a manager. Why pay that 15% if you don't need it, or if somebody's going to do it? I think there comes a point where it's a little overwhelming, so they need to step away from that, because at the end of the day, if they're not making music and they're not if you don't have passion for the music that you're making, there's nothing to sell, there's nothing to monetize. So I would encourage any musician not to give up that for the business side of it, because if you don't have the songs and that creative juice, there's nothing else to talk about. But I think investing in your band is a really good thing. If you are going out on tour and you're paying somebody to make T-shirts, maybe you build your own print shop in your garage and do it for yourself and other bands. That's a way to kind of invest in yourself. What else? I have a bunch of notes here, but now they're meaningless. They look like hieroglyphics.
That's okay. So you feel like as far as the skills that bands can develop, it's more looking at the band as a business, perhaps, enterprise as well as an artistic enterprise? Is that kind of...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Look, and
And
again,
an
that can be
entrepreneurial-
really, and that can be really, really gross to certain musicians. I've worked with certain musicians, and they don't want to have anything to do with that. They don't want to think about it. As soon as it comes up, they turn off, emotionally, and that's why it is important to have that sort of in-between person like me. And thank God artists are a little kooky sometimes because it keeps me employed. But they're some people really are interested in that, and that was my story. I did really enjoy watching that go down, watching settlements go down, just meeting the security guards, all those kinds of things, and it prepared me for life after music and panels.
Good plug. That was good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew, same question. I mean, I've personally been very impressed with just the way that over the years it seems like you've done. I remember seeing you when I was on Warped Tour with a record label, Suburban Home Records in Denver back in 2002, 2003.
Yes, yeah, 2002. Yeah.
Yeah, and we would switch off daily to go see you because it was just so much fun, first
Thank
of all.
you.
But I've always been impressed by how it seems since then you've done different enterprises along the way to kind of sustain not only your art, but to sustain your brand and to ensure that you're able to further it down the road. So, I mean, what are the things that you've learned through that process? What are the things that you feel like are the skills that you have used to adapt?
I just wanted to create an individual that I could be, and to have people say, "Oh, Andrew WK," and not say it's that song or not say it's that particular project or that particular endeavor. It was just this person, and I wanted to be that person. And fortunately, I am. So it all worked out really easily in that way. Just to be able to do whatever you wanted to do, to create something where there were no rules. You could just wake up every day and go out into the world as an adventurer and build a sense of confidence and ability that would allow you to navigate that kind of adventure. I think if you think about your life as a movie that you get to write and star in and produce and maybe not direct because there are some gods involved at that point, but you follow where destiny takes you, and if you have the wherewithal and again the support to go through with it, it'll be an amazing adventure, and I'm continuously blown away, amazed, and thankful that I just have been able to do any of this. And I don't know that breaking it down for me into two fine points of technical approach to life, it can get very tricky. I think you just get to decide what you want to do, and if it feels right, it's like that's your true will.
Do you feel like through that process, I mean, as far as creating your own movie, I mean, is there something that you've had to maybe refine, like a certain skill that you found at the beginning that you weren't as maybe something you slipped up with early on that you wish you would have changed later on?
No, not really. There was a lot of folks that had advice for me very early on, and that was usually to not listen to other people's advice. So I took their advice and didn't listen to them either. You just gotta trust your instinct, trust your own gut. It's a very strong feeling, and it can be very scary. That's the problem. Is oftentimes your instinct, what you're actually meant to do, it can be extraordinarily stressful. But when it feels that way, it's almost like a good flavor or a good smell. You just know on a deeper level that's what you're supposed to do. And sometimes the crazier that it may seem is the sign that is what you're meant to do. That's what risk taking is all about. And especially when we're younger like this, and I think 93% of everybody in this room is pretty young. This is the time to do that. We have nothing to lose, and I wouldn't want to look back like any wise elder person. They would say, I wish I would have taken more risks. I always embrace that advice. That's probably the best advice I ever read.
Brian, I mean, you've worked with a number of different bands. You've just like Bart and with Andrew, you've met a lot of different people over the years. So what do you think from your experience you've seen that kind of, I guess when you meet an artist, you know that they have something that will set them slightly apart as far as a skill to make sure that they go just a little bit farther than the guy next to them who doesn't have that skill?
Well, that's a really easy one because I think Andrew just kind of outlined it. The people that I've worked with that get me excited and that get me inspired to continue to work for them, 80 hours a week or whatever it is, and any time of day, any time of night, you know. Sometimes I'll be sleeping, and I lived in the studio for a year and a half, and just middle of the night, early morning, you know, when it strikes, you go with it, because like Andrew said, there's a feeling and there's a moment, and I can relate to things being terrifying and shuffling your feet along because you know it's the right thing to do, but it's just hard. You just have to listen to that instinct because it grows into something really, really special. But the artists, yeah, that I could say something tying or unifying that I've seen that I admire is just, again, not taking advice, it almost seems stubborn, but they're just so confident with the path that they're on, and yeah, they need a little bit of help from time to time. And with my intuition, I try to find out when they don't need help. And I've been recording projects where I kind of talk myself out of work before, and will leave the studio and let the artist be alone and encourage them to be alone. And sometimes it's lasted for upwards of like 6 months, and just to give them that space, and then if it's right, they call back and they need you there, and you guys can work together towards something. But to answer your question, sorry, it's just a total trust of oneself and one's craft and whatever they're pursuing, and not doing it for other people, not being concerned of how the project's going to be received. Because the most recent record that I worked on, it wasn't until we listened to it in sequence that I even actually understood it. But I trust the person I was working with and the musicians that were writing, so I was very aware. I was like, this is not cool. This is not something that sounds fresh and whatever. And then when you listen to the end, you realize that they were totally right, and just it was good to trust them because it's earnest and genuine. So.
So you both mentioned the point of not taking advice, and I think that those are both incredibly valid points. But I would ask, I mean, in what cases do you think it makes sense to take advice? Because in some cases, we all have our own advisors or managers or whatever it is that we hire to help guide us along the way through the.
I think you really want advice that puts you deeper in touch with your own instinct. Again, like you're trying to understand what you're meant to do. Everyone's born with a purpose. You know, they don't create things for no reason. And that goes for humans as well. So you want to be put in touch with that. And there's a lot of noise and complication and life that can get in the way of that clarity of purpose. So really the best advice anyone would ever give you would be just ways to channel deeper into that own self, your self-purpose, you know, your own sense of destiny. And ideally you want your own drive, your motivation to be pushing you as much as your destiny is pulling you. And sometimes they can get, you know, out of sync, and you're being pushed in one direction and pulled in another. But if you can line them up, that's the best anybody can hope to do. And it might not have the outcome that even you expected, but there's a plan for everybody here, and you know, you hope that it's a plan that you actually get to enjoy partaking in.
I can speak of a time where the one time I really listened to advice from somebody, and it changed the trajectory of my entire life. And that was my dad, who's in this room, who I was going to school. I was offered a job touring, and he's been very by the book as I've known him, and guided me in a very beautiful way my whole life. But you know, it's been logical in his decision making. But he insisted that moment that I drop out of school, figure out the rest later, and follow it, because I called him, and like Andrew was saying, I knew it was the right thing in my gut, but I had to call to check and fact check, and he was just quite the opposite. He said, change everything in your life, do this, and you'll figure out the rest later. So I'd say maybe if you have a good relationship with your family, if it's not a business relationship, they usually have your best intentions in mind. So people that are blissfully unaware of the music business also give wonderful advice. My girlfriend, my family. So that would be something I could speak to personally.
That's great. Thank you.
Blissfully unaware.
That's really good. So I think kind of dovetails with that question, but I guess if there were to be a particular mindset that one would need working in the industry, working through music, I think we touched on not taking advice, being very willing to take risk, because you have to if you want to further yourself. I mean, what type of mindset is needed if you want to get through those times when the risks don't pay off, or when the risks do pay off and they do really well? I mean, what do you think sets those apart who deal with those situations very well versus those who don't? So, and I'd feel free to field that to any of you. Bart, if you'd like to go ahead.
I think this is when the role of a manager can be really, really helpful, to have a really close connection with an artist and be able to advise them, because they'll take it or leave it. And I've been on both sides of that, where I feel like, okay, my message was received, let's go. And then other times where artists go, a different way and tear up, enormous amounts of money and just, disappear and choose a different path. But I think the mindset is chosen by the artist. You just have to choose when to discuss these things. And we talked about it a little bit before. I've gotten to the point where if I'm going to talk about money-related issues with the band, I choose those times just based on their emotions, like whether I think they can have that conversation then or not. And recently, based on our conversation, I think you talked about an open book, closed book thing. When you're having a meeting, you say, all right, are we an open book? Can we talk about this? Is this topic possible right now? Can you handle it? And if they say no, that's it. You don't talk about it. Everything else in the world is, can be talked about, but money is it's a strange topic, and music and commerce they're strange bedfellows. So it's just touchy. So I think that's when you need to know the artist and know when it's appropriate. So it's very case by case, but I think a manager or a family member are best suited to have those conversations. Probably best not to do it over drinks.
Right.
Because sometimes that can things can spiral a little bit different. Yeah, probably a better sober conversation.
Okay. So, okay.
Daytime.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All good points, I think.
Yeah.
Those are all great points. On that subject of money-related discussions, I mean, it's something where I feel, I think everybody sees it in their personal lives. Dealing with money with family, dealing with money with business partners, whatever it might be. It's more complicated, it seems to me, at least from kind of an outsider's perspective. I'm not an artist, but working with people in music, to see music get involved and to see art get involved in the money discussion. And I'm curious how you guys find, what's the best way of dealing with that discussion that you found with managers, with agents? Do you treat it like a business versus art? Do you treat the two discussions on two separate levels? And I don't know. I just like your feedback on that. I'm curious what you think.
I definitely separate them. There's the money side, and that's literally what I go, and do my job every day. I go to a desk and look at a computer, and I'm very lucky because the commerce that what I'm dealing with is music, which is awesome. But once the laptop closes and I'm with an artist, I don't really like to talk about that. I really want to talk about their next project, their new song, a T-shirt design, like anything that's on the creative side, as much as possible, and all of this stuff as little as possible, frankly. But yeah, I mean that's why I've got a job. It's definitely daytime. Bands really need to have business managers as early as possible to organize their money. Preferably somebody who's not a fan or something. It's just somebody who's just looking at numbers on paper. They're not interested in these people as personalities or individuals, because that's it shouldn't come into the equation when the money's being handled. So it's nice to have a business manager that's just separate, very separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andrew, being an artist, I mean, how do you deal with that discussion? What have you found that's worked, that hasn't worked, that makes it less emotional, maybe more matter of fact, or
I don't know. It's always been fine. I've been very fortunate to have a great team at all times. Even when I've left certain folks and found new folks, everyone's trying to further that vision, And when someone finds themselves caught up in your vision, you also realize that you're part of their vision. You're part of their life and what they want for themselves. And when everyone is doing what they really want to do, it works really well. And when someone finds themselves doing what they don't want to do, then you fire them. And you find someone else, So it usually has been very smooth. I feel like there's a lot more to happen. I can't speak from 60 years of career experience, but again, I think if you just work as hard as you possibly can, things will be okay.
It seems like we're hitting on two topics that I've noticed. One would be work ethic is huge. as far as sustaining yourself in the industry, and the other would be being maybe more entrepreneurial as far as treating it like your baby, your business, your baby, your art, all that all together. Do you guys feel like that might be the distinguishing characteristic that kind of sets those people apart? Is that, going back to an earlier question we had, would that summarize the things you're...
I would say, you want to make sure that everyone not only is working as hard as they can, but that there's a sense of integrity. That if you're going to do whatever you're going to do, you're going to do it the best you can. So that even in hard times and great times and challenging times and easy times, you're just doing your best. And they always say, like, as long as you did your best, then you can feel good about it. Well, what does that really mean? It's really a sense of just self-satisfaction, and that feeling will get you through those harder times. I always thought it was strange because they said anything you could do, or that you can imagine you can do, or if you put your mind to it, you will get it done. And a lot of my friends and myself, we imagined lifting a car over our heads. Now, with some of the cars I've seen on the streets here in Austin, I think I probably could lift it over my head. These very small, smart cars. But if you think about a normal-sized car, that's at least a ton. And I don't think I could do that. But I know there's other things I can do, and with that in mind, you just want to apply yourself with the best effort and the best intention. And sometimes the intention, again, that spirit, it's a strange thing. It's a mysterious, intangible kind of energy. It's an attitude, it's an approach that you take with you in any field, in your personal relationships, in your business relationships. It's called being alive. You just want to do it the best you can with that. And I think that matters more than anything, because you could be the least successful person in any field, but if you did a good job and you were a good guy, then isn't that really being the most successful?
That's self-satisfaction. Yeah, the point of self-satisfaction you made is absolutely critical. Yeah.
So being a decent human being helps. Right?
Yeah, and being a really
looking like a decent human being. People think that, then that's good enough.
Okay.
And on the topic of being a decent human being, like, I find that my job in networking, and Josiah has been asking me leading up to this panel, of he thinks I'm a person that kind of looks ahead and plans things and has some sort of strategy. And oftentimes when I'm on tour, I was production managing in front of house for a year and a half on a tour that was pretty large. So I wasn't thinking ahead. I was happy to get 4 hours of sleep or something. So I guess the point and the thread that I lost at one point in the last few years and continue to force myself to come back to is about looking like a decent human being, at least, but being a really decent human being to everybody around you, because I'm never handing out cards or plugging or doing anything like that. I guess I've been very fortunate, and I understand my fortune, and I'm very grateful for it. I stopped calling it luck because that seems too inconsequential, and somebody made me stop saying that, saying you're not lucky, these things keep happening. So I'm fortunate to be around the people that are genuinely wonderful and make sure I do the things that satisfy me personally. Again, thank you for feeding me all the gold. Oh, sorry.
Panel's getting interesting.
But make sure you're doing the things that fulfill you, and make sure that the people that are in control have that interest in mind as well, to look to make sure you're doing the things that you're good at, and that might change. And if that does change and you're unhappy with the work you're doing, you should get out pretty quickly, because then you're going to start doing lousy work, and that sucks.
So maybe stepping back and looking, do either of you or any of you have any success stories or cautionary tales either from your own experiences or from anybody else's experiences, not naming names or shaming people or anything, just things that you think would help somebody either in the audience or somebody who is going to be watching this on YouTube avoid a same mistake or celebrate the same success at some point?
I guess I'm trying to be as focused on I'm trying to be organized with this thing. I've seen bands break up. Sorry, I've seen bands break up.
Call me disorganized.
Yeah, kinda.
Just let us talk, Bart.
I've seen some bands break up and without a band agreement. not knowing, who's gonna control the funds, or things like that. That's been kind of a drag to watch really talented people break up over whatever their reasons are, but not have an organized path about how to divvy up t-shirt sales, like for shirts still sell after bands break up, or CDs, and then having infighting afterwards. So planning for life, not beyond music, but planning for life in music. If you're really going to turn that corner and be a professional band, it's really nice to have terms outlined. It's not fun to talk about, but I encourage it early on. Just get that conversation out of the way one time. Let an attorney deal with it, and then be done. So that's the cautionary tale is, don't get to the end of the road and then freak out and wonder what's going to happen with the income from the group.
And you've seen that happen numerous times with different
A couple times,
groups.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? I mean, any similar things? I mean, I think we all anybody who's been around music for a while shares something.
Sure. Yeah, I like what Bart said, and I'm bad at that. And
Mm-hmm.
valuing yourself in the work that you do, because you're always you should always realize that you're gonna get better at what you're doing, and that's like a difficult balance, to have the confidence to know you're good enough to ask for something and ask for money. And there aren't a lot of contracts in a lot of the work that I do, or really very little of the work that I do, 10%. And that has bit me in the past. And what Bart said, and not being so touchy-feely and trying to stay organized, that we gave you some guff. Thank you. He's totally right. Get that stuff taken care of up front. And just, I find the written word is very, very important. And is so much as if it's even just an email, take the time to write it, take the time to revise it before you send it out, and feel good about it, and try to make it comprehensive, I guess. So, yeah.
The reason that there's more than one guest on a panel is for dynamics. Contrast, different points of view. Sometimes people play devil's advocate. So I'm just here to try to add a little dimension, into this is all good advice, it's all good input, all good feedback, and all good ideas and thoughts. A lot of my feelings on this, I'm coming from just my own personal perspective. I've had a very strange life, but it's the way I wanted it to be. And it's not to discount any other approach. They all matter. You just have to decide what it feels right to you. So the best is to be as aware as possible, to take in as much as experience as you possibly can, and stay open-minded without losing against that self purpose, that kind of direction of what feels right to you.
So, actually, Andrew, on that note, you've had a strange life, as you mentioned, strange career, as you mentioned. At what point did you realize that you were going to look at other things to kind of sustain yourself other than just the music itself?
Well, I remember a conversation I had with an earlier business manager of mine that was very intense. And this guy, I'm not going to name names out of respect. He's a legend, though, and I love him. I think he's fantastic. I will never forget probably every interaction that I've ever had with him. And he is a legend in the business. But he, like a lot of folks, he told me, and was so proud to tell me and just sort of tell himself that nothing matters but a song. Nothing matters but the music. And I understood what he was saying, that, music is amazing, and a melody can make you feel as good as I have ever felt in my life. But if that was all there was to this adventure, I wouldn't want to do it. That's why I got, I guess, not bored, but I never wanted just to record an album and then do a tour, and record an album, then do a tour. Kind of that idea of like, man, the real, like whenever that word real or nothing else matters, when things get very definitive, like the number one, top 5, the only thing that, then you start to get, you feel squeezed in. I just wanted to try to create a situation in which I could, have a lot of intense experiences. And in that way, you can use the music as a means to many adventures. It could be a launching pad for all kinds of excitement. And hopefully that you're always broadening your skills to be able to perform in all different ways. And we're all really performing in that sense. We're all creative people. We're making choices. That's all that creativity is, making choices, doing one thing over another. And if you take that kind of mindset, then you really have the whole world at your disposal in terms of opportunities or different activities that you can do with that kind of skill. It's really about being the best person, the most powerful person you can be, and using it to entertain yourself and others.
That's great. Thank you. That's a great answer. Wonderful. I mean, Brian and Bart, kind of similar question. I mean, what have you seen as far as when artists finally make? I mean, Bart, have you had that discussion with artists where you're thinking, okay, now's the time, just focus on your music, but now's the time to maybe branch out and look at something else on top of that?
No, I haven't really had to have that conversation because the groups that I've worked with have been a lot of developing groups, and when they decide to split, they're just sort of done. So it's been a little premature. I haven't really had a band go into the 5th, 6th record. They've had a ton of success, but the creative juices are just fading, and then they need to look at what's next. Maybe someday that would be a really uncomfortable, weird conversation, but I have noticed certain people, these guys are saying there's certain artists that their flame is so bright, and that's their energy, and they are only cut out on this earth to do music and to be creative and only do that. That's not everybody. If you walk around these streets, every third person has a guitar. There's 20,000 musicians. Not all of them are going to be, the next big thing. They just can't be. There's just not enough, there's only room, for so many superstars or, people to really shine through. And I think the point is, my point, being on this panel to, hopefully say this to some bands that are coming up, that they might have a good time doing it for a while, but who knows what's going to happen next. But they still want to enjoy the ride. That was my point. It's come develop these skills, enjoy the ride, but figure out, who else is on the ride, what else you're doing. Because if you're not going to be the person who's there, who's devoting their entire life and their entire being to it, then, maybe they can still have some fun too. But man, I would really hate to look somebody in the eye and say, it's starting to fade. You might want to think about, doing this or that. That'd be real tough.
Right.
Fortunately, I've never had to have that conversation.
Right.
The little experience I've had with other ventures, but through music, I guess I'd just advise that if you're going to endorse something or be a part of something, that it's something that you use or that you believe in. It can be trivial. I actually endorse a whiskey, and I drink responsibly. But I've been drinking it for a long time.
I saw you on a billboard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I just remember
we were
that.
recording, and then
Yeah.
What whiskey is it?
You're on a whiskey billboard.
it's Bushmills.
Oh, wow. That's a good Irish whiskey.
It's a good
Yeah,
Irish
no
whiskey.
joke.
Yeah, they have some.
It's good.
This is not.
That's true.
Okay,
I like it.
Me too.
Oh man. Okay, so
stuff you believe in.
okay, stuff you believe in. Okay, so looking at that sort of revenue stream or income stream. I mean, Andrew, you've had a number of things that you sponsored or been a part of. How have you discerned what's worthy of your backing or not worthy of your backing?
I mean, a lot of the time, I just had an image in my head of what I wanted to be or do, like we were saying before. And so I always liked Taco Bell a lot, and I really wanted to work with them. I didn't know how it would happen. Sometimes you just put out a desire like that into your own brain or your subconscious. You don't really have to tell anyone else, even. Unless you have your manager, your core mastermind team, you can tell them that kind of stuff. But it's just something that is so strong. Again, it's almost like sometimes dreams, they're not just dreams. It's almost like it's your destiny preparing you for what you're meant to do. That's how I started to think about dreams. Like if you hear some great rap artist and you think, I really like that song. That's an amazing song. Maybe it's not just your dream to meet them. Maybe that's destiny preparing you for what they already had in store for you, and something like Taco Bell, that's always felt like I was meant to be part of this. I don't know how, I don't know in which way it's going to take shape. It could just be eating a lot of their tacos for the rest of my life, which I've already done, and I'll continue to do. But then there's those extra things like I've gotten to work with them, on a lot of different projects now, and each time I always tell them that I this is a dream come true for me. And at first I think they didn't really understand what I was saying by that, but and many times I haven't gotten paid. It was just when a dream comes true, when some kind of destiny is fulfilled like that, out of respect for the power of moments like that in your life, you got to acknowledge them. So I always say, I give thanks that I'm realizing right now at that moment a dream is coming true. And then I think it seems like more of them happen when you acknowledge them. And then another great venture that I've gotten to be involved with, I've always liked Playtex.
It's going to be my next question.
Yeah, no, this is my mom first introduced me to this brand, not for me to use, but she used some of their products as a wonderful lady and gave me birth. But Playtex has broadened out into a new realm of products for men as well, and women. This is Fresh and Sexy, which is a product actually that I had been using before they approached me, because it's really for cleaning yourself up. Now, I sometimes don't have a chance to take a shower for a day or a week, or sometimes a few months, depending on the circumstances. But this, when it's time to go and be intimate with another person or even just yourself, you wipe yourself down with this, and then once you're finished and you've created that extra content, you wipe it up using the second one here. And I do have you get two per, they come in a kit of two. Each one is two connected. So this is for the before, and then this one is for the after. And that's just a great wipe. And
Is it the same formula for before and after?
yes, it is. It is. So they're interchangeable.
Fair
Thank you for asking. And here's the special photo. And I had this dream of doing this photo before we began the project, and I managed to get the photo. And some folks have come. Thank you very much. And some folks have thought like, oh, actually it's been an incredible response, but you always are prepared for those folks that think that somehow you didn't want to do this. This to me is one of the absolute high points of not just my career in entertainment, but in my life. And I really mean that. And to be able to say that, that's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to say that whatever you're involved in, you're not embarrassed about it, you're not ashamed, you're proud of it, and grateful for it. This to me is as important as an album. And I think, and maybe this really ties into the panel here, for this ever-changing entertainment industry, this can count in some ways as much as a hit single, or as a great tour, or as an amazing MTV video. This has the ability to achieve just as much for furthering yourself and for satisfying the entertainment aspect of anything. This is entertaining.
Yeah. It's really true. It is very entertaining.
And now you're linked to cleanliness.
That's right.
Well, I'm clean where it counts. I'm not very clean everywhere, but
Right, well, cleanliness and sex, that can't be a bad.
Sounds like-
connection.
yes, it's a dirty kind of clean.
So I think we've all three of you have hit on a few different points. I don't even know how to transition from that. It's good.
Good luck.
Good stuff. I think the main things, at least that I've taken from this before we do Q&A, is looking at what you're doing, just being a good person, following through with what you want to do, charting your own course, taking advice maybe when you need it, but not feeling like you always need it. Would that summarize the main points? Am I missing anything?
That was very well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish I had said that.
I wish I had been that well spoken this entire time. I'm sorry. Any other closing statements you guys have? Anything you want to throw out there that I missed?
No, let's talk to people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that you guys said, and I'm appreciative, for the group that you guys kind of stuck on a similar theme of going with your gut and what feels right and being a good person. Some stuff we've heard all our lives. It's nice to hear it in this circle. I haven't heard that this week. So I was kind of lured into this panel because of the money matters, and it does. We want to sustain ourselves in this, so in a creative sense and doing that product, endorsing that, is it as simple as what do you feel led to do, and then you just go with that and you hope it works? I mean, is that why we're in this panel? Is that kind of the main feast?
Well, I mean, I would say that a big part of my approach from as long as I can remember was just saying yes to everything, just figuring it would not have come to me if I wasn't meant to do it. And even when it became clear that I was strongly mistaken about that, you managed to interpret it in a way or learn something from it getting too. I do have some friends that say no to just about everything, and you know what? They don't end up doing very much. And they have a lot of ability, and they have a lot of talent, and they have a lot of energy, but they're so concerned with doing the wrong thing that I think they've let many right things pass by. So you make your own way, of course, and if something really feels wrong, you don't do it. But I also have that faith that there's a guardian angel, there's a path for everyone, and if it's going to bring you something, the odds are it was meant to come into your realm of experience. And at that point, you also have influence over it. So if it doesn't feel right, manipulate it, make it right, change it, work with it, make it fit into your destiny, because it wouldn't come across your plate if you weren't meant to gain something from it.
Thanks, guys.
That was a good question.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
I've heard this before. This is not the first time this week that somebody said, just be nice. There's a book out there that they've given away to the students around here called Welcome to the Music Business, You're Fucked. and really what I got out of it was, be nice. Just be nice. And it's really great to hear that from you guys.
Cool. Yeah, be nice, and also stick up for yourself. You're worth it. Yeah, please.
And do read that book.
Welcome to the music industry, you're fucked.
Throw stuff around before I actually had a comment and a question. The comment was to you talking about the lucky. It's true, because at first I kind of thought, is that luck that I'm meeting some of the people and running into? But no, ultimately it is your drive that's putting you in those positions, and then it's your choices in those people that you're meeting that kind of take you further or pull you back or show you a different direction. But the being nice comes in because the industry is smaller than what it seems. It seems like it's this big, huge thing, but a lot of you guys know each other, and word gets around real quick.
Yeah.
And if someone's a jerk, they're not going to be a jerk very long before people are just not wanting to work with them. So, it's not really luck, because it's, like you said, and then, of course, yeah, be nice, but stick up for yourself, because there is a lot of people looking to take advantage of you. There are people looking to sign you and get you stuck to keep you from preventing, competition with other artists and other labels and things like that. But my question was for you, Andrew, because you mentioned all this stuff you've done, but you didn't mention the live streaming, which I think is just awesome. The live streaming, yeah, because Stickum went under. I know, and I'm wondering.
That was very upsetting.
Yeah.
Stickum was a great webcam site, the original one, before Ustream and Justin TV and a whole bunch of other ones. And somehow or another, they just went out of business like crazy. There was no notice. Fortunately, we were given a week's notice, but that was very upsetting. I'm working on doing Ustream, but you asked about just like the computer and how you can use technology to connect with people.
I live stream myself. That's why I think it's so cool, because there's so many of these reality television, which I think most people are under the fact we might watch for entertainment, when that's all you have to pick from. You're just kind of picking your favorite thing, but most reality, or all reality, is not really reality TV, because you can tell that it's a lot of cut. Okay, why don't you guys come around?
Is this real life?
Yeah, it is real life. But the live streaming, I think, is real. No, it's real. You can tell when you're watching those shows that a lot of it is, and then you talk to a lot of those people and they can tell you, hey, they were editing me to look that way, and I just, So live streaming, I think, might be the last real place that reality TV has a chance to be real, and
it's definitely, it's got a
change
unique
life.
texture and a unique flavor, and it is very special. I enjoy it for sure. It's intense. It's very intimate, and I agree. And I encourage anyone to check it out, or even engage in it and broadcast yourself. At the same time, with all due respect, everything is real. Everything is real.
Well, it's real, but claiming that it's
Everything
like
is real.
that and only happen
Can't
like
not
that
be
live.
real. Everything
Yeah.
is real.
It's true, but a script makes it a little less real.
It's still real.
A
Okay.
little bit. So you're on Ustream now?
Yeah, I think we're going to be starting hopefully in a week after next.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. That was a very good question.
Hey guys, my name is Nick. I work for an agency in New York. From an agency perspective, we see money coming in day in and day out. But in the music business as a whole, it's sort of lumpy money, right? You get paid big one day, and then it's sort of maybe not so much the next few weeks. Do you guys have any basic rules of the roads for artists? I guess that's the first question. And the second question is, do you guys see an agency playing a part in any of that?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, Bart, you've talked a lot about that, actually.
Yeah.
You and I have had some conversations in the past about that.
Yeah,
when we're
agents
putting
are my
this
best
together.
friends. I mean, they sustain bands. Like my bands are more blue collar, working bands that tour, and that's where 90% of their income comes from. So, even though it's feast and famine, it does come in, and as soon as possible, I recommend bands put themselves on payroll. So it doesn't matter. Just figure out what your nut is, like what everybody needs per month to live. It's $1,000 a month just to pay rent and bills and whatever. There's 4 band members, $4,000 a month gets set aside, and is you're just on payroll. You just get your thing. Whatever's left over is in the band account. Hopefully the band agreement covers what that money goes to, gear or at the end of the year bonuses or whatever it is. But get a band on a reasonable payroll as soon as humanly possible, and work with your agent so that every month you have a goal. We need to make $20,000 in gross revenues this month on the road, whatever it is. And hopefully it keeps going up and keeps going up, because it does come and go. And if you're not careful with it, it goes a lot easier than it comes. So payroll.
Thank you very much for your question. Appreciate that.
This one's for everyone. So I appreciate the idea of niceness being key and everything like that, and not to dwell on the subject, but for everyone, is there any sort of situation where it's okay for it to just be business as usual, where niceness might not be the best way to handle a situation?
Yeah, I don't think we were clear enough on that in explaining it, but yes. Open book time is business talk, and it's best done for me through email, but anybody's, whatever your best form of communication is, but absolutely, there is a time and a place, and hopefully for me, if it's an artist I work with, that their management is somebody I can communicate with well, and management tends, my relationship with them tends to differ greatly than it does with the artists themselves that I'm working with, and that relationship is much more cut and dry, and it's not nice that much.
And even more than like niceness, it's just manners. I think it's more just thinking about what your parents would be happy to see you do. Just want to behave to some degree. But entertainment, sometimes misbehaving is very entertaining. So there's times, you just gotta, again, just trust your instinct and think about, would my mom be proud of this or not?
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. My name is Sean. I just wanted to say thank you very much for doing this panel. I really appreciate getting all the different perspectives. My question is, when things, for instance, Mr. Dahl, when you were talking about initially when you started out and you were on stage and you kind of felt that you weren't meant to do guitar.
Yeah.
And you really enjoyed doing other stuff. What I'd like to know is, where is that point that you sort of got to and you realized, you know what, this was my dream and I'm really pushing it, I'm doing everything I can, but it's like you realize that it sort of clicked in your head that I don't want to do this isn't the right thing. And how did you go about transitioning and sort of shifting gears in your head? Does that make sense?
Well, I'm still trying to make sense of it, actually, because I do want to be on stage. I do want to hold a guitar and jump around. There's nothing like it. It's really, it's indescribable, and I only did it on a very small level. Probably the reason that I transitioned was because the bands I was in were equally as bad. So had I been surrounded by better musicians, and I hope they don't watch this, because I guess this is on YouTube.
I'll be sure to send them the link.
You know these guys. All you guys, well, you don't. Anyway, they're hardly anonymous now, but anyway, had I been around better musicians and better songs, I probably would have been more motivated myself. But I'm just not a tremendous musician. I think I just kind of always knew that, which is a drag, but it's true. But I think it's just knowing yourself. I mean, it's great. I'd still like to do it at some point, and I'm at the spot now that if I booked a show for a band that I just put together, my first show could be pretty rad. Like probably get on a big gig and have it be amazing, right? But I don't know. I fell in love and got married, and you know, that was a big factor. It's like I didn't want to be on tour all the time. That was probably the biggest factor, I guess.
So would you say like life sort of dictated the choice
Yeah.
for you? Or,
Yeah,
or,
life
or helped lead you?
Yeah, life just kind of led me that way, I guess. But I definitely didn't want to give up on being involved.
Was it something that you regretted though? Like, was it a feeling that you really felt like, man, I've let this part of me die, or I've let it go?
No, because I haven't let it die, you know.
Right, you just sort of morphed it into, or channeled it into something else.
Yeah, definitely. And
Right.
you know, I'll do something at some point. Like I talk to friends about, you know, doing bands, and someday I'll do it, and it'll be fun and whatever. I just don't have those expectations that I'm gonna be, you know, be a big rock star.
Sure.
You know, that's somebody else's fate, not mine, and that's fine. I'm totally at ease. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I'm from Austin, and we have a lot of startup mania going on here, and startup companies in Austin. We have accelerators and incubators and all that stuff. And one of the things they tell those people there is, you got a business plan here, and you think you're going to do it, and when and it doesn't work, they call it pivoting. They pivot and do something else. And so that's just, you know, my comment on this whole thing is that life is seamless. I don't have a business life and a personal life. I have a life.
Yeah.
And I really get that from you, man. Thank you for saying
Pivot.
that.
That's a great, you know, that's a great new way to look at life in general. You're the centerpiece. You're the center point of your own experience, and you pivot. 360. Not the whole world, you know. That's a good way to look at it.
I would add too. I actually, so I work with a firm called Raymond James, and I deal with a lot of startups as well as music. Those are the two groups of people I mainly work with. And the thing that I see that they both have very much in common is a sense of absolute passion towards their idea and what they want to promote and what they want to get done. And the thing that I tend to worry about is that passion will override any actual strategy to accomplish that passion. So it's interesting you mentioned startups, because I just feel like I look at bands almost as mini startups sometimes, where they're just passionate and they're driven and they want to get it accomplished. But, you know, sometimes they get caught up in the moment and forget to think 2 weeks ahead even, or 3 weeks ahead. So yeah. Thank you very much for the question.
Well, let's squeeze another comment in here.
Sure.
Okay, the word passion was really used a lot last year here. And so I went to the dictionary and I looked it up. And the Greek root of the word passion is suffering. Think of the Passion of the Christ. That's like the seventh example of the definition of the word passion. Look out using the word passion. It involves blood. From
Yeah.
the Greek root. Okay?
Blood and sweat, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Blood, sweat, and suffering, yeah.
Pain, suffering.
Right, which makes good art sometimes, like lots of times. So,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be easy. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you to our panelists. You're all great guys. Really appreciate sharing this with you.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks again to South by Southwest. Thanks to all of you for taking, rather than seeing a show, coming and listening to all of these fine gentlemen today. And thanks to Aaron, who's working our camera as well, and to my firm, Raymond James, for allowing me to do this. So this has been great. Appreciate it. Hope you all have a great time and enjoy the rest of South by Southwest.
There is not a session in the next slot in this room. So everybody just come up and say hi to him and talk to him as long as you want to.
No, wait a minute.
That's a good picture.
Thank you, sir.
This Stern Show is a big sponsor, right?
Yeah, he's been promoting it for good, even before it was in the stores. Me too. Been talking about it and telling Robin about it.
Well, I guess we never met in Colorado, but I grew up just in the other side of Castaway. Yeah. So I didn't meet Brian until much later, but I was really excited to hear he was a Ponderosa High School guy.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah. Dog go good? Yeah, no problem, man. I knew you. I had more better understanding than I would, so.